How's it going, everybody? So today in this video, what I'm going to be showing is how to build an approval workflow from scratch in Airtable. So this is going to be from absolutely nothing all the way to complicated approval workflows. Hopefully not too complicated, but it'll all be in no code, all just built into Airtable on the base side of things, on the interface side of things, and automations. And we're going to also be using Airtable Co-Builder, which is a new feature. If you haven't met me before, my name is Ben Green. I'm the owner of Optimize IS, and we make systems just like this for businesses using Airtable of all sizes. So if you're interested in getting help setting something like this up, check out the link in the description. We're going to jump right into it right now. So what I have here is this demo workspace. And if I just come up here and click create, I get the option to use Airtable AI Co-Builder. And with Airtable AI Co-Builder, you can just click on this and then it opens up this little prompt section here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use voice to text to give it a prompt, but there's a lot that can go into the prompting here. You can be as descriptive as you want, be as clear as you want, especially if you have some sort of vision of what the data structure should look like. Hopefully this is going to create a pretty simple Airtable structure, but we'll see. So create an approval. Actually, we want to create a request and approval workflow. My goal is that this is going to give me one table for requests and another table for approvals. I don't think Airtable AI Co-Builder right now builds any automations, but it should in the future. We're going to have to build some automations ourselves here. And let's see. We'll see if Airtable AI Co-Builder can do this. I can kind of already envision the database structure. There should be 4 tables in the way that I'm envisioning how this is going to work. So we can test this out and see what it gives us. So we'll see how this looks thus far. So this looks good. We have requests. Oh, cancel. So there's all the requests. There's the requests again. The requests over time, it looks like. Request date. I don't know what the other date it's using is, but that's interesting. Approvals. Okay. This looks great. So this is like, it looks like it got my database logic of there's one request and then potentially many approvals. Although in this case, I think it at least got the database structure correct. So I need to add some more details in here. We'll see if I can get like self-linking records in there. Requests, or actually approvals. So you can kind of go back and forth a few times. I have seen it time out once, but that was after like 20 or 25 times going back and forth. So just keep that in mind. Sweet. So there's dollar amount requested, approvals. So you can see, I think this should be a linked record to our approvals table. That looks good so far. Okay. I think this looks pretty good. It even says it's going to create a dashboard. So let's go ahead and create this app. Also, it looks like request submission. Perfect. So it's going to have a request form. All the approvals on this are going to happen in Airtable with editable users or users with edit capabilities. So now we're going to go create this app. So let's see, request and approval workflow now shows up here. And we can go into it. So when you generate it from AI, it's going to pop up with like this kind of a view. So I'm going to come in here and hit edit app. And I am going, actually, we can take the tour since this is one of our first times showing Cobuilder on the channel. So here's the interfaces and the pages within them. They all start out as unpublished. That's the data layer. If this is your first time, you can get to automations by clicking there. Once I'm ready to publish each of these interfaces over here on the left and the pages within the interfaces, I can hit publish. That's like the help section. All right, so this is the way that I usually do it right off the bat. I just want to hit publish. That way I can start looking through all of this as if I was a user and start thinking, how would I be using the system? So, overview, request dashboard. What am I looking at here? These must be all of the requests, the dollar amount by day that it was requested. I wonder what that's showing. Request timeline. So, okay, so it took us back to just one date. So I think really a calendar view may be more beneficial if there's only one date and we're not doing like resource allocation. So I'm actually just going to delete that. This is what I found a little bit with Airtable AI Co-Builder. It's fantastic for getting you from 0 to 1, but as far as getting you further than that, that's when it's really helpful to have someone who knows what they're doing in Airtable. Okay, well, let's just get started on this. So ideally, I want one interface for the admin view, or I'm fine with two. But what is admin's going to be showing? So this is just showing the people. Okay. I'm not in love with that. So let's delete the dashboard. Approvers. There's approvers and then approvers dashboard. One thing I'm curious about is okay, it put these in separate tables. This is a common thing I would maybe see in Google Sheets, but I actually want all of the people to be in one or the other. And I want to, like, instead of having two separate tables in here, I want to add a field where I just have everybody in one, and then there's a type of person. Again, Airtable AI Co-Builder, it's brand new, so you should expect some bugs like this, and you maybe have to do a little bit of cleanup. But it at least got us a lot of demo data. It got us from like 0 to 1, which is super, super important. And I see it's now customizing some of the data, like it's using Optimize IS, our business name, in here. So admin, approver. So these ones that we already had up here are admins. These ones that I copied and pasted in here are approvers. I'm curious why approvals links to both admins and approver. I don't think we need that linked record to admins. So I'm going to delete this one here. That's going to mess up some interfaces. Usually this is the way that I go about it, is I come and clean up the database side of it and then go back to the interface, because I need to clean up anything that was not right on the data side of it before worrying about the interfaces, because this side has to be just about perfect for me to do anything else. So this field for interface permissions, I need this to be an email field or a user field, because I want to maybe be able to test this. I want to use emails in this. If you know for a fact all of your users are going to be doing everything from within Airtable, you could use a user field, but I prefer email because it's a little bit safer in that regard, where I may not have a user for all of these yet. And I'm just going to add myself in here as one of these. And I'm going to add Charlie in here. Oh, actually. So this is now going to be people. We're going to rename this. So you need a people table. You need a approvers. Do not need the approvers table. You need a people table. People are assigned to requests, and they're also assigned to approvals. That looks good. You need a request table. Each request may have one or many approvals, so this looks good. I would prefer that this auto-generate. So, but I guess for the demo, for what we're creating here, that doesn't matter as much. Approvals. This is saying, for this request, this person needs to approve it. Here's their status. Dependent approval. It got this so close, Cobuilder did. I'm impressed. The only thing it's missing is this actually needs to be a linked record to the approvals table instead of just a text field. The reason for that is now I can, from the dependent approval, I can look up the status, because one of my requirements is going to be, let's see, this one is pending. This one should only, like a notification should only be sent to Alice in Wonderland if there's either no dependent approval or if the dependent approval status is approved. So if you want to set up like a complex workflow like that, you need this built in. So let's go back to the request table. Okay, so the other thing that it's missing is it didn't pull in our request to create like a templates table. So when I'm building this, I want to say like, I want to be able to create a template. So I'm going to create two different templates. One is if the dollar amount is, let's say, over 2,500. The other is if the dollar amount is under 2,500. And I want to say if it's over 2,500, these 3 people need to approve it. If it's under 2,500, these 2 people need to approve it. So let's go create those tables. So the first table I'm going to create is a templates table. And I should say over 5,000, over 2,500, say over or. I'm going to be using a find records action in here. So I want to actually use a currency field and say like limit, lower limit, upper limit. This is a cool new AI feature, part of their AI Labs program. It suggests that I am going to have a number field. It's close. I know I need a currency field, but number field is pretty close. So that's kind of cool, something that has come out recently. This is going to be from 0 to 2,500. This is going to be from 2,500 to 5,000. This is going to be from 5,000, and I'm going to set a limit of like a bunch of 9s. Nobody should be requesting anything more than that. And now we need approval templates. So I usually use another table for approval templates. So I'm creating a new table through creating a field that is a link to another table, I think is what they call it. It's a linked record field. That is now going to create this new table. I like that because you don't have to delete those 3 fields at the beginning. In this, I'm going to say, like, if we use an example, what I usually do is I like to add each of my templates and then group it. And then now we can create, so if it's over or 2,500, over 5,000, or over or under 2,500. So here I'm going to say if it's over 2,500 or 2,500, I'm going to say these people are approvers. And it should just be one person at a time. So a benefit of this is I might say certain people need to approve certain dollar amounts. So like if it's under 2,500, then it can be Alice in Wonderland and Charlie Chocolate. If it's over 2,500 or 2,500, then it can still be Alice and Charlie Chocolate, but now you also need Ben to do it. And if it's over 5,000 or 5,000, I actually wanted to use this Charlie Chocolate. Let's say, actually let's use Alice. It's just gonna be different. It's gonna be Alice, then Ben, then this Charlie Chocolate. And let's switch out Dora here. And the other thing we need is kind of an order. This is a table in the back end, so I really don't care as much about what's going to be in the linked record field of like the templates table. Like this is just showing 1, 2, 3 on each of these. I don't mind that as much because this is going to be a table that's just shown in the back end. Nobody should ever see this unless you're an admin, in which case I want it to be as simple as possible. So let's see. Here, I want to also include, because this is going to be a more complex workflow, I want to say like dependencies. Dependencies. I think I spelled that right, hopefully. So I want to say, if I took Dora the Explorer as an example, so we can say no dependency on Alice in Wonderland and all of them. We can also say, for Dora the Explorer, I want to wait until Alice. So wait for previous. And I think that makes sense. So if I use this as an example, we could say no dependency on these two. Here we could say no dependency. It's going to be kind of three examples of this. So in the lowest dollar amount option, they can both just approve whenever they have time. Same with this one. But on this one, for Ben, when Ben Green goes to approve it, I'm going to say both of these two people have to approve it before. So 100% of the people before. And let's make this a number field. Okay. So I want to now, from the approvals table, I do want to link to that approval templates. So if I looked at some of these, based on the requested dollar amount, we should be able to go link it to the right template, or we should be able to find the right template. And then we want an automation to then go generate all of these approval templates in the approvals table, assign them to the right people, and then this dependencies field will be used for the notifications. So now here, the approvals table, we deleted that table. So that interface is now no longer useful. Requests and admins. So admins is just going to become people. So we have an overview of all people and then an admins gallery. That seems to be fine. But this should now be people gallery. We have the requests. So I want to say, I think maybe in the form, this looks great. So we have a dollar amount requested. This is going to be required submission date. And we want to know who submitted it. I would also probably want to see, well, yeah, that's fine. Okay, so let's publish this form as well. So if I use a new one of these as an example, Ben Green, I'm requesting $4,500. Submission date is today. This could be taken off the form. We could make this like a created by field, but for now, that's okay. So that should be submitted. Now, if I go back into the interface, typical workflows we see with something like this is as soon as it's submitted, a Slack message should go to the people who need to approve it. And this is going to be, I'm just going to type this in here. This is 005. So let's open this up. So currently there's no approvals, so we need an automation to go add the approvals. But once they are added, this should ideally be a view. That way we can see the status of all approvals. Yeah, and that looks just about right. Okay, let's take this one step at a time, publish these changes, and see what's next. Okay, so we have this approval. We now need to go generate the approvals template because it's different depending on the dollar amount. So we're going to go add a new automation. So in the request table, when the approvals is empty and the dollar amount is not empty, that should basically mean the record was created. So in our case, that means this record was created. I now want to go find the proper template record based on a condition that based on the lower limit and upper limit. Okay, so the lower limit needs to be less than or equal to 4,500. Upper limit should be greater than the dollar amount requested, or 4,500. So if I read this out loud with our example, I should be going for tier 2. So the lower limit, so 2,500 is less than or equal to 4,500. That's true. 5,000 is greater than 4,500, which is also true. So that should return just one of those. So if I test this, I now just get this one template record. Now what I want to try to do is I want to repeat for each item in a list. Let's see if we can pick the right list. Okay, so we don't necessarily want find records because there's only going to be one in that list. I want to add another find records based on the approval templates in a condition whereby the templates is exactly the template that I found in the last step. Let's see if I can do that. Yep. So templates, the linked record on the approval templates table is exactly the template that I found here. So in this case, it's searching for template 2. So that returns these 3, which looks perfect. So now in my repeating action, I can select my second find records action and use that as the list. So I want to now create records in the approvals table. I'm going to fill in the request. I'm going to fill in the approver. I'm going to default the status to be pending. Dependent approval, we're going to wait on that. Approval date, we'll wait on that. And the templates will fill in. So the request, we triggered based on the request, so we should be able to pull the record ID from the triggering record from right here when a record matches conditions. Not current item, that is first now that we're in this repeating list, but actually you want to pull from this step, Airtable record ID. Approver, we do want to pull that from the repeating list because remember this is repeating for the approval templates table where we defined who is the proper approver for that record. So you want to click on approvers and then ID. Approval templates, we want to pull the record ID from this template. So if I turn this on, this should get us most of the way there. There's a little bit that we're going to be missing off the bat, but I think this is a good start. So if I go duplicate this request and look at this one, our automation should be running because I turned that automation on in the back end. And now it's created 1, 2, 3. Perfect. So let's go back on the back end and now work on this some more. Let's come in here and group this by the request. This is bothering me a little bit. So we're going to clean this up a little bit because I want this approval ID to always be filled in. I'm going to add what Airtable calls an auto number field right here. That way I can fill in this. So I'm going to change this from a single line of text to a formula. And the number is going to be, this is a fun formula for you to learn. Rept, it repeats a number. So it's going to repeat zero for 3 minus the length of ID. And then it's going to pull in the ID. See if that works. Not quite. See if that works. Perfect. The purpose of that is as I get to 10, I don't want it to be 4 digits. I just want it to stay 3. Okay. So now we pulled in the request, it pulled in the approval. There's no dependent approvals. So let's look up from the approval template, approval templates, the dependencies and the order. So approval templates, we should adjust this slightly and say wait for all previous. So in this example, if we group this, so request 5, these people are going to get it immediately. And then 3, this third one, it's going to wait for the previous one. So let's go into the automations. What we really need to have happen is this dependent approval right here. This needs to add in 5 and 6. So it should look like this. So that's what we need to have happen, but we need an automation to do that. So that, and this is going to help us control our automations later on. The purpose of this is so like once the statuses of the previous approvals are approved and only approved, then we can send the notification for this person. So if I go into the automations, I'm going to create a new automation. I'm going to do dependent update dependent approvals. So I'm going to say when a record matches conditions in the approvals table, when that field that I just copied dependencies from approval templates has any of these two. Again, I can't remember why I wanted to add that one, but I'm just going to do it now. That's going to be my trigger when it has any of those. And I want it to go find records in the approval table based on a condition that the request is the same request. So I'm going to add in request, change it to dynamic, and pull in the request from the triggering record. And the order is less than dynamic the order here. Oh, shoot. Okay, so cannot assign a list of a number to a number. So we can fix that by changing this field. If we double click on the field header, change it to a rollup. Currently it's considering, even though it looks just like a number, smells like a number, it's considered an array, which is kind of a number. I don't know. But we need to say from the approval template, the order, and just sum the values. Looks the same. Maybe add some zeros, but it's not quite the same. So we need to change this to now dynamic again, and now we should be able to pull order. And then we want to update the triggering record in the approvals table using the record ID from the triggering step. The fields we're going to fill in is only the dependent approval field, and we're going to fill it in with the values of this find records action. Okay, so we're going to pull in, make a new list of that, and turn this on. Now to watch this work, I want to make it a lot of fun. So let's duplicate that again, new, and run over here. So we should have 3 records being created down at the bottom. Maybe. Okay. And then dependent approval fills in there. Both of those are pending. Okay. So that's a great head start. Now what I want to set up is, let's see, which comes first, the chicken or the egg, the automation or the interface? I think the interface we should set up first because I want to include a link to the interface in the email that I send to the approver. But just so we get ahead of ourselves a little bit, let's look up the email from this linked record field right here so we know who we're going to email. And this should help us control permissions in the interface by pulling in that email. So if I go to the interface now and I go to approvals, we have a few different types in here already created. I kind of like the Kanban. That one's all right. Overview is also all right. Timeline I'm not in love with, so we're going to delete timeline. It just doesn't, there's only one date, so the timeline view doesn't look super appealing. On all of these, I should only see records where my email is in the approver email. So if I click in the white space up here, I can set a filter that the interface user will not be able to change. And I'm going to say the email from the approver is current user's email. I'm going to go to the Kanban view and do the same thing. So click on like the white space up here, filter, add condition. The email approver is the current user. Okay. So now I think I need to add another condition to each of these because I only want them seeing approvals that are ready for them to approve. I don't want to like mess with an executive that like, here's an approval you may have to approve, but if the people before you don't approve it, then like I don't want it to be on their plate. This is also going to tie into how the notifications work. So I'm going to add a condition group right here with a new condition where the approval status from dependent approvals, it's either empty, and actually I need another condition group. So either that status is empty and the dependencies is no dependence, or the dependencies from the approval templates is one of these two, and the approval status is pending or has none of, pending or rejected. And approval status has any of, approved. Has all of. If there was a option where it said is only approved, I would go with that. I'm not sure that, maybe correct me in the comments, I'm not sure if I could have done this simpler, but I would love to if there was an option. So this is wow, that was kind of a lot of filters to set up, so I may just rely on this interface for it. Actually, no, I don't want to. We're going to actually have to redo these in one more interface because I like a different interface better for approvals. And let's try changing myself to Charlie. Charlie does also not have any. So just so we get some data in here, I'm going to put Ben Green for some of these. Go back to the interface. Okay. So this isn't bad in here. This can work. You click into the approval, you see the request info. If we wanted to go a little bit above and beyond, just for a user and like the experience standpoint, if you wanted to pull in all of the information from the request, you could come in here and click plus, create field. Field type you're going to be looking for is a lookup field. If you want to say pull in the request dollar amount, you're going to be searching from the request table and dollar amount requested. If you want to add another one, so create another lookup field. From the request, I want to know what user requested it. You could do that as well. The reason for that is like there's only 4 fields shown here. If you have more than 4 fields that you want to show to the approver regarding what the request was about, you could add more lookup fields like that. The one thing I would mention is these fields are not editable. So now I'm going to take that out because I don't want to see it anymore. So approval status is pending, and then approval date. This one I'd prefer to just use a modified field, specifically on the approval status. So it's not a true approval date, but it's what date the status was last modified. And I'm going to publish all of those changes. Okay, so the interface that I like slightly better for this, it's called the record review interface. And if I go to record review, I want this to be of the approvals. I'm going to have to rebuild these in a view for the automation, so let's just go do that right now. Okay, so this is how I usually name automation. So there was 2 groups in here. Each of them use the dependencies field, and each of them use the approval statuses field. So the way that I'm getting those in there so fast is you can right click on the field header and click filter, and it adds it to the bottom of your filters. And we need to switch this. So this is an or, this is an and, this is an and. So dependencies has no dependencies and approvals is empty, or dependence has wait and approval status has any of approved, and approval status has none of pending or rejected. This kind of kills 2 birds in one stone, because you may consider putting something in here where the approval status is not empty, but if it's approved, that also means it's not empty. So this is actually going to be our view for the notification as well. Now, if I go back in here, the interface that I like for the record review for the approvals is record review. So I'm going to switch the table to approvals. Should be able to do this. Sweet. Now all I have to do for the interface is add that one thing where the email from the approver is that. And then, I hope I can move some of those. Well, let's just add it as a step within. This is not the most efficient design, but we'll get over it. So instead of having the condition for the email being outside of this, it's just inside, doubled up, which is fine. Okay, so I like this one. We're going to pull in the approval status. That's what they're going to be updating. We don't need quite all of this information. I'm really just kind of trying to cherry pick the things that were pulled in from the last detail page that I mentioned. And let's pull in the dependencies as well as dependent approval. So we're going to make this, we're going to beef up this interface a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to hit next. This is going to be approval review. So over here on the left, I like to group by status fields. I think it makes it look quite nice. I'm going to minimize the pages over here by clicking on that. So things that people can edit, we can actually know anything people could possibly edit by clicking on the group, which is a very small thing to click, and clicking edit. So things that they could possibly edit would be, they could edit the approver. I actually don't want the approver editing that. They could adjust the approval status, which I do want them editing. And I don't want them editing the dependent approval, but I also want to show a view of that. And within this view, I want to show the approval status and date, but not the request. One thing I would also want to add in here is maybe notes. So let's create a new field, a long text field for notes. And I always like to include rich text formatting. We're going to change this to editable as well. So you may be wondering, like, why did I add approvals in here? And what if there's no approvals? That's going to be a little bit ugly. If there's no approvals and there's this big thing down here, well, what I actually want to do is show you, you can make this conditionally visible. And the purpose of this is I want to show, here's the previous approvals. So I should actually name this properly. By the time this is showing up in the interface for this person, here are the previous approvals. And yeah, but I want to disable link and unlink records, and they shouldn't be able to print. But here's the previous approvals. Here's who approved it, what date they did, and any comments they added. Did I add notes? Because I need to. But you can make this whole thing conditional. I only want this to show up if there were dependencies on this. So we want to click on this like view section down here, visibility, always show group if the, so you get to pick from any field that you've shown on the interface here. So I have shown the dependencies field right here. So I only want to show this if it has any of the weight options. And then another thing I want to add is a button. So I want to say approve. That is going to be a nice green looking button. And I'm going to change the action to be update a record. Change the status to be approved. What I like about this type of interface specifically, I think this is the only one that allows this, is you can, after update, make it move to the next record for them to approve. And let's see, I want to add one more button. So I want to also say reject, where we update the approval status to be rejected. I like to switch these colors out. Let's see, I want color before, color after. So that's rejected. I also want to move on to the next one. And maybe we'll require a confirmation. So let's see what that looks like. Well, that's not ideal that that's in there, but if I say approve, I thought that was going to ask me for a confirmation. Oh, I only did it on reject. If I go to this one and I say approve, are you sure? yes, I want to make the approval. That is actually new, I believe, as of this week, that little confirmation thing. Haven't seen anybody talk about it. We'll say, are you sure this is approved? That's good. So that's pretty cool. This is the approver interface, which I like a lot now. So maybe we can add some notes and say, great investment for Ben Green for $4,500. We'll approve that one. Yes, approve it. But it looks like it kept us on that record. Let's see. I would prefer that it takes us to the record 13, but I don't want to troubleshoot that right now just for the sake of time. Now the only thing really remaining is we need to set up the notification. So notify approver to approve. So we're going to use a different trigger than we have here. When a record matches conditions, when a record matches conditions, we're going to use a different trigger because this has nested logic in it. So when we have nested logic like this, it has to use a Airtable view. So when I come in here, I'm going to add a trigger and I'm going to say when a record enters a view. That view lives in the approvals table, and I've named it something scary. That way people don't mess with it and trigger a bunch of notifications. And I'm going to lock it and also say message Ben Green before editing. It's good. So I'm going to come in here and send an email. If you want to use a Gmail or a Slack message or a Teams message or an Outlook email, you can choose one of these options down here. I want to send an email. The email that it's going to, remember we added that lookup field wisely a little while ago. Email from the approver. Let's try that. Let's actually test one of these so we can actually see some dummy data in here. So I want to pull in the value. This is something I would have messed up without testing it properly. I want to pull in the value. It should say like what you want to pull in there. New request ready for your approval. Message is hi. Let's see if we can pull in approval. Hi, Ben Green. Approve or reject the request here. And this is one of the things I was most excited to show in this video is a hyperlink. So you use straight brackets around your word, no spaces, and then parentheses here. And I can include a interface record, like a link to an interface specifically to that request using this little blue plus. It's a little blue plus, page record URL. Approvals review is my record review page, and then I'm going to click insert. And so if I generate a preview of this, this is what it would look like. I can click here, and it takes me directly to that one right here. If I go back here, my only other steps are to turn this on. And it's not going to run, when you turn that on, it's not going to run retroactively on all of your records. So that's it. That's pretty much all of the approval system. If you want a copy of this base, just click in the pinned comment or in the description. I'll have you just like put in your email. I'll email you a copy of this base. You can like duplicate it, go look at all the formulas, go look at all the automations, all the interfaces, and you can use it on your own. But I hope you got value out of this. If you want to see a more in-depth tutorial on specifically dependencies, click in the end screen here and view interface dependencies. But again, if you want to copy this base, just go down in the description and get a copy of it and use it for your own approvals. Hope this was helpful. Have a great day.